Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. If you have a comment, email it to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Follow us on Twitter at Radio Detectives and become one of our friends on Facebook, facebook.com/Radio Detectives. Today's episode is brought to you by the financial support of our listeners. Thanks so much for your support. I had to do a bit of detective work to figure out where this show should go. It's listed as undated on the Radio Gold Index. However, given the number of shows made during the 1952 season, which should be 7, this fits most comfortably immediately following last week's show. So here, as best we can tell from July 17th, 1952 is A Life in Your Hands and The Truck Engine Murder.
The National Broadcasting Company presents Earl Stanley Gardner's A Life in Your Hands. Was the car running? How did he die? Where was the body? Listen while we place A Life in Your Hands. You never know when you step from the safety of your home when you may witness a violent death and be called upon to testify as to what you saw and heard. Murder is a dark enigma that strikes fear into the heart of man. Strange, baffling, mysterious. But the darkest crime one man can invent, another man can unravel. Such a man is Jonathan Kegg, created by Earl Stanley Gardner, the world's most popular writer of mysteries, creator of Perry Mason, Doug Selby, and other outstanding characters.
Good evening, Mr. Kegg. How are you?
Fine, thank you, William. And you?
Up and down. You know how that is. I haven't seen you around the county building lately. Been busy catching crooks, have you?
No, I let the authorities catch them, William. That's their job, not mine.
Hey, Mr. Kegg, just what do you do anyway? I see your name in the papers all the time, but, well, I don't quite get it.
The Latin name for my work probably throws you. Amicus curiae, friend of the court.
You're not a private eye, huh?
No, indeed. In some cases of murder or larceny or whatever it is, I try to help the authorities find the guilty person through cross-examination.
Can you stay working at a job like that?
There's more work than I'll ever get around to. An act of violence comes suddenly. The witnesses aren't expecting it, so they fail to notice details.
Well, if I saw a guy knocked off, I'll bet I could tell you what went on.
You may have a chance to prove your powers of observation someday, William. You never know when you may be called upon to testify to an act of violence in which you have become involved quite innocently. Even now, somewhere in the city, there may be a crime in the making.
Get out of my house, Lorray. Get out.
Bart, listen to reason, will you? We used to be friends. I started you in the construction business.
Yeah, you made the dough and I did the work. Now I'm squaring things.
There's enough building going on in this county for both of us. Your bids are so low, you're losing money. What's the idea?
Okay, I'll give it to you straight, Lorray. I'm going to run you out of business. That's the idea. I'll undercut every bid you make until you have to fold up. And that goes for the Tahoma River Bridge, too.
You've never done a bridge job in your life.
After the meeting in Humboldt tonight, I'll do one. I'm offering them a bridge for less than you'd take to build a house. You're through, Jack. Washed up.
I teach you the business. I bring you up from a pup.
I told you to get out. Go on.
I'm leaving. Sure.
Might as well stay out of the bidding tonight.
I'll be there, Clayton. I'll be at that meeting.
Leave your boys at home if you know what's healthy for you.
What's that mean?
This busted nose. I know who paid those goons to rough me up last week.
Not me, Bart. I wouldn't pay anybody.
No, we're pals.
That's all I'm going to take from you. Oh, Bart, listen. You're ruining my company. I've had to lay off men, my foremen, my best truck drivers. Now you're saying I had you beat up. You can't touch me as a businessman.
Your reputation. Ha!
Don't push me too far. I'm warning you.
Get out. I didn't tell you to come over here and cry. Well, you hear me tell him?
I heard you.
That's the last of Jack Luray.
You did a swell job, Bart.
What's the matter with you?
Luray's tough. You know he's tough. You can't stand up to him like that and expect to... You're begging for trouble, Bart.
I can take care of him.
Look at you. If somebody hadn't come along, those men would have killed you the other night. Bart, you told me so yourself.
I was doing all right. I knocked out 2 of them.
There were 4.
Quit worrying about me, kid.
Jack Luray hates you, Bart.
I can't blame him. I'm wrecking his company.
He has reason to hate you. He did teach you the business. You were friends, and now you're...
Oh, sounds like you're on his side.
I'm just trying to make you be careful. A man like Luray, when he knows he's been double-crossed, really double-crossed, he might do anything and think it was right.
Okay. I don't want to hear any more about it.
Don't bid on the Tahoma Bridge. Stay away from that meeting in Humboldt tonight. Let him have the job. You don't need it.
I need the work. I need work so Jack Luray won't get it. I'm going to smash him, hit him where it hurts. His precious reputation, his company. Watch Bart Clayton go, baby. Ha, 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 ha.
Your supper's ready. Go ahead and eat.
Yeah, big-hearted tonight, huh? Don't I have to wait around for your kid brother to show up?
You might be late for the meeting in Humboldt.
Yeah. Hey, it's 8 o'clock. Where is brother Joey boy, anyway?
I don't know.
You're going to wait and eat with him, huh? Our big, happy family.
I'm not hungry.
Doris, when's Joe going to move, get out on his own? He's been hanging around here 2 years, ever since he got out of college.
He's been helping you with your work.
That's what he thinks, him and his engineering degree. Joe does it college style, and I go along behind him, patch up what I can, junk the rest. He's costing me money. I'm telling you, Doris, get that punk kid out of our house, or so help me, I'll... Hello, sis.
Hi, Joe.
Give me some more coffee.
Supper's ready, Joe.
Sit down, Joey boy. Sister's waiting for you.
I've got to wash up first.
Here's a towel.
Thanks, sis.
How's things out on the job?
Rain held us up. We may have to lay off tomorrow.
What's the matter? Didn't the professors let you work in the mud?
No use to pay men for standing around in the tool house.
Nobody stands in the tool house when Bart Clayton's around.
Sure, Bart. Sure.
Hmm.
Oh, I drove one of the trucks home. It's in the garage. I'm catching cold and didn't want to stand around and wait for Limey to come pick me up.
The trucks stay on the job. I told you that. I want them ready to go when the drivers get there in the morning.
I'll have it back by then.
Since when do you get to work on time? I'll drive it and leave it on the job tonight on my way in from Humboldt.
You're going, huh?
Who said I wasn't?
I didn't think you'd take another job. We're behind on this one.
I'll get the bid. We start building that bridge the first of the month.
Eat your supper, Joe.
Okay, sis. The boys are complaining we're driving them too hard.
Complaining. Tell them to go to work for Luray. You, too. I wouldn't mind losing you.
I'll tell them, Bart.
You want some more potatoes?
I lost my appetite. I better get started.
Maybe you ought to leave the truck here. It was missing when I drove it home.
I'm going to take it back to the job.
Bart, if the truck doesn't work right, drive our car. It'll be dark in an hour.
I'll fix the truck before I leave here. I don't mind getting grease on my hands. I'm no college boy. I'm a mechanic. I'm a ditch digger. I'm a truck driver. I did it the hard way.
I was just trying to save you trouble.
I'm not going to have trouble. I'll fix the engine before I leave. How many times do I have to tell you to fix the engine?
Stop it, both of you. I can't stand it anymore. You pick at each other like... I'm going out.
It's raining, sis.
Where you going?
Out to the store. I don't care. Maybe you'll be gone when I get back. Both of you.
Now, take it easy, honey.
Leave me alone. I hope you get to build your bridge. I hope hurting Jack Luray makes you very happy. I hope... Goodbye.
More coffee, please. I haven't finished this cup yet. Oh, the rain sounds pretty.
Nice to be under a roof, though. Wouldn't want to be out walking in it.
Like poor Miss Clayton.
We can see real good living next door.
Yes.
She ran out the back door kind of sudden.
She slammed it hard.
Crying, too.
Oh, I suppose they were all fighting again. Poor little thing.
Yes, poor thing.
I think it's the brother. Two's a family.
Unless they have youngsters.
Oh, that's different.
You just said two's a family.
I think it's the brother. But I don't suppose he has any place else to live.
Poor thing.
Oh, it's a pity.
Oh, how I would hate to live with that man, Barton Clayton.
Say,
Well, you know what I mean.
well, it just sounded funny.
Well, he is a terror when he gets riled up. I've heard him say terrible things to Mrs. Clayton and her brother, and...
Well, he does work hard.
Yes, that's a strain on a man.
Oh, poor thing.
Yes, it's just too bad.
Oh, here. You want to put your feet up on the chair?
It might be comfortable. They say it helps to circulation, too.
Oh, look. Look. There he is.
Oh, he's mad, too.
Going in the garage. Maybe he's going to leave her.
Didn't take a suitcase.
Probably wanted something out of the tool shed.
He's starting his car.
Sounds big. Maybe it's the truck.
We don't know much about trucks. Don't know about cars at all.
Oh, I always wanted one.
Well, maybe someday.
Always wanted one with white spokes in the wheel. They don't make them that way anymore. I thought about driving right up to prayer meeting in a car with...
Oh, there she is.
Oh, came back through the alley.
Sack in her arms. Went to the store, I guess. It's a wonder she stays with him the way he talks to her.
Oh, no way to understand why people love each other.
No. It's nice, though.
It is. It is nice.
Somebody else back there in the alley.
Oh, I don't see anybody.
Gone now, I guess.
Where were they?
By the garbage cans.
Oh, probably a stray dog.
Well, I know somebody when I see somebody. I don't mistake stray dogs
Hard
for...
to understand why people love each other.
Yes, it is.
More coffee?
Oh, I haven't touched this yet.
Well, you just tell me when you're ready.
I'll tell you, Lou. Rain sounds pretty.
Nice if you're inside. I never was one to go paddling around like a duck when...
Lou, she's coming out again.
Oh, my, she's mad, too.
Going to the garage.
Oh, they're going to have a terrible fight. I just know it.
Maybe we can hear.
Oh, say,
Something terrible.
Something awful.
Doris, what is it?
Joe, say, somebody's running up the driveway.
The man who was here earlier is Mr. Clayton's friend.
Jack Lorraine. I heard Doris scream. You killed Bart.
Dad, you did it. I know it. Don't let him get away, Joe. Stop him. Hold on to him.
Sit right here, Mr. Kegg, behind the desk next to me.
Thank you, Coroner Willett.
I don't mind telling you this inquest is wearing me down. 3 days, same stories over and over. I still think there's more to Bart Clayton's death than accidental. Carbon monoxide's so tricky, I don't know whether...
We'll see what we can find out.
Oh, I sure do. Thank you, Mr. Kegg. I debated with myself all night about calling you and having you drive way out here to Caney County, but
I'm glad to help if I can, Coroner.
Oh, it'll be a big help, all right. I don't mind telling you that I've been... what are they all jabbering about? Quiet! Quiet in here! And the minute people heard I called you, they started piling into the room. Some here at dawn this morning. I don't know...
Are you ready to begin?
Sure. Quiet! Now, this is Jonathan Kegg. You all know his reputation. Those of you who don't, I'll explain. Mr. Kegg isn't here to represent any side. He's not for or against anybody. He's what they call an amicus curiae, a friend of the court. In this case, friend of the coroner of Caney County. He's after truth and justice. You want to take over, Mr. Kegg?
I'd rather you'd ask the questions, if you don't mind.
All right. Joseph Kerwin. Kerwin, come up here where we can talk to you. Take a chair. I've been over this so often, I feel... your full name?
Joseph Harlow Kerwin.
Brother-in-law of Barton Clayton?
Yes, sir.
Describe your activities the night of the murder.
Well, I came home from work, drove the truck into the garage. I went in the house, washed up. I was finishing my supper when my sister screamed.
You and Clayton quarreled that evening, didn't you?
Well, it wasn't exactly that. I'd been working for him. He told me I was fired. Might as well go somewhere else to look for a job.
He was kicking you out of his house, in other words.
I guess that's right.
You know whether it is or not.
That's what he was doing.
You'd had a lot of fights before. Maybe motive enough to kill a man.
I didn't go out of the house. My sister told you I was there when she came back from the store.
Calm down, Sandler. Calm down. Now, you didn't like the way your brother-in-law treated your sister, did you?
No.
He was mean to her, talked rough.
If he ever laid a hand on her, I would have...
Would have killed him. Quiet. Now, you're a graduate engineer, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
And the night of the death, you
Excuse me, Mr. Coroner. Mr. Kerwin, was Mr. Clayton also a college-trained engineer?
He was a self-made man. Made it the hard way, and he never forgot it.
And he probably never let you forget you made it the easy way. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You resented this, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
You're excused. Mr. Coroner, Clayton died from carbon monoxide poisoning. Could that be the sole cause?
Well, there was a lump on his head, but the carbon monoxide killed him.
Then it might have been accidental death.
I don't think it was. Clayton got beat up by goons a week or so ago. They broke his nose, but there was a fresh lump on his head when I examined him. I think somebody knocked him down, and the carbon monoxide finished him.
It couldn't have been suicide?
Not Bart Clayton.
Who's your most logical suspect?
Jack LeRae.
Let's talk to him.
LeRae, come up here.
Mr. LeRae, why were you at the Clayton house that evening?
I wanted to find out why he was bidding low on every construction job in the county. So low that he lost money. Bart told me why. He was out to ruin my company.
What did you plan to do about it?
Clayton drove a truck for me 15 years ago. I taught him everything he knew about the construction business. I helped him start his company. Do about it? Well, I left, but I was mad. I drove around a while, thinking. Then I went back to talk to him again.
You were supposed to be going to a meeting in Humboldt?
That's right.
Weren't you going to see Clayton there?
I wanted to get to him first, try to talk some sense into his head. Like I say, I drove back to the house, parked, and then I heard Doris scream. I ran down the driveway. She and her brother saw me. Doris started to yell. Joe said I'd killed Bart.
Mrs. Clayton says you engineered a beating for her husband sometime last week.
Oh, I didn't. Bart thought I did, but I didn't. I'm a businessman. I wouldn't do a thing like that to a competitor.
You hated him. You know you hated him. You'd have done anything to make
Mrs.
him...
Clayton, I've warned you before. Another outburst like that, and I'll have you taken out of here.
Let's talk with Mrs. Clayton now. I'd like to hear her story.
All right, Mr. Kegg. Go on back to your chair, LeRae. Up here, Mrs. Clayton, please.
Mrs. Clayton, I want to make this as comfortable as possible for you, but you'll have to help me.
I'm very tired. I've answered questions for days. Go on, Mr. Kegg.
You understand that it's quite possible that your husband was not murdered, that he met his death accidentally.
He was killed. I know he was.
How do you know?
LeRae threatened him. They quarreled not more than an hour before.
Your brother admits he didn't like Mr. Clayton either.
Joe was in the house all the time. Bart was killed in the garage while trying to get the truck fixed. Somebody came up behind him and...
What was wrong with the truck?
I don't know. When Joe came home, he told Bart it wasn't working right. I tried to talk him into driving the car, but he...
Didn't you drive it to the store?
No, I walked.
Do you often walk in the rain?
The store's only a block away.
How did you happen to go out to the garage after you came home?
Joe told me Bart was going to make him leave the house.
That made you angry?
Yes.
So you went to the garage?
Yes, I found Bart lying on the floor.
Was the truck engine running?
No, I heard him trying the starter when I came back from the grocery store.
Were the garage doors open?
They were all closed. The door to the tool shed, the small door into the garage, and the big doors were all closed.
You didn't hear an engine running?
No. Yes. Yes, I did. It must have been when I came back from the store.
But you just said you heard the starter as you returned from the store.
I'm confused, but I did hear the starter, and I think the car must have started. Oh, I don't really know.
Then you believe your husband died between the time you came home from the store and went out to the garage?
I don't know what happened, except that Jack LeRae killed him somehow.
Well, now, Mrs. Clayton, what did you do after you discovered the body?
I called Joe.
And what did he do?
Well, he stopped to talk to LeRae.
Did you see LeRae?
I saw him running up the driveway.
If your accusation is correct, then Jack LeRae did murder your husband. Why did he return to the scene of his crime a few minutes later?
Well, he...
Had that question occurred to you, Mrs. Clayton?
No.
Can you prove you didn't quarrel with your husband in the garage and...
Stop it. You're trying to confuse me. That man killed Bart, Jack LeRae. He did it. He threatened my husband. Bart kicked him out. LeRae came back to the garage and... Maybe he was hiding. Oh, that's it. He tried to get away. We saw him running away.
Quiet. Quiet in here.
Coroner Willett.
Quiet, everybody. Yes, Mr. Kegg.
Coroner Willett, I would like to request a recess until tomorrow morning. At that time, I would like to cross-examine an innocent bystander.
I can't stand any more questions. He's guilty. I want LeRae punished.
I'm running this inquiry, Mrs. Clayton. In compliance with Mr. Kegg's request, this coroner's jury is now adjourned and will meet again tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.
Jonathan Kegg is about to call another witness. That witness could be you. If it were, could you remember what you have heard? It would be vital that you do, for in this coroner's inquest, you would hold a life in your hands. Are you going to Chicago to attend the Democratic Convention? You can, you know, just by dialing your NBC station. For NBC will bring you right into Convention Hall by giving you the most comprehensive coverage ever accorded the nomination of a Democratic presidential candidate. From keynote address to final ballot, the NBC microphones will be listening. You'll hear the speakers, the delegates, the reaction of the onlookers in the gallery, and all in the comfort of your own home. Remember to dial your local NBC station, and you too can be right in Chicago, listening to history as it is being made. Jonathan Kegg has called his next witness. Two witnesses, in fact. Two old-maid neighbors of the Clayton family, Sade and Lou Trescott. The coroner's jury is in session. The sisters are before the coroner.
But, ladies, it's not proper practice.
We couldn't, Mr. Willett. We just couldn't do that. We go every place together. I wouldn't know what to say if Lou wasn't with me.
Oh, one witness testifies at a time. That's the standard procedure.
Then we'll just have to refuse. Refuse. Why, I'd be too nervous up here alone. Nervous and upset.
Under the circumstances, Coroner Willett, I'd recommend that this inquest grant special privileges to these ladies and allow me to cross-examine them together. They both heard sounds surrounding the death of Barton Clayton. Sounds that I believe have an important relationship to the death of Bart Clayton.
Quiet. Under the circumstances, Mr. Kegg, we'll waive our rule and grant your request. Please go on with your question. Bring another chair over here, Jones.
If you'll take your seats, please.
Yes, sir. Certainly.
Now, you ladies, Lou and Sarah Trescott, live next door to the Clayton home. Is that correct?
We're neighbors. On the east.
Where were you between 7 and 8 o'clock on the evening of Barton Clayton's death?
On our back porch. It's screened.
Will you describe in your own words what transpired during that time?
Go on, Sade. You start, Lou. Well, I'd rather eat... Well, all right. Well, right after we'd finished supper, Joe drove in the driveway with a truck.
Did he usually bring a truck to the house?
Not often. Once in a while.
According to other witnesses, the truck was not performing properly. Did you notice any indication of mechanical difficulty?
I beg your pardon? He means, was the truck running all right? Oh, we don't know much about cars. We've never had one.
Did you notice the engine coughing or sputtering?
No. It was all right so far as I could tell. Joe left it going when he got out to open the garage door. Then he drove it inside and closed the door. And we heard it running fine after that.
Will you describe the Clayton's garage?
It's big, and there's a tool shed on the west side.
Do you know the construction material of the building?
Well, it looked like cement before it was painted.
Coroner Willett, such a building is practically an airtight room, entered through double doors from the outside, through the tool shed. Now, to continue. When did you see Mrs. Clayton?
After Joe went in the house.
A few minutes later.
She ran out the back door.
How was she dressed?
In a light coat.
And no hat on her head.
She looked very angry.
Was it raining?
Well, we thought it was strange that she'd go for a walk.
She always did that when they quarreled. Go for a walk to cool off.
When did you see Mr. Clayton?
Just before Mrs. Clayton came home. She'd been to the store.
She was carrying a grocery sack.
You saw Mr. Clayton go into the garage?
Yes.
Oh, he looked mad, too.
We heard him trying to start his car.
Are you sure whether it was the passenger car or the truck?
Well, Lou said at the time she thought it was a truck.
I did say that, but I couldn't be positive.
Did you hear an engine running?
Well, I'm not sure.
No, just the starter going round.
Mrs. Clayton,
Yes,
did you hear an engine running?
yes, I did when I came back from the store.
Are you sure it was not running when you left the house before you went to the store? Now remember, you were angry. You might not have noticed as you walked out.
I don't know. Leave me alone.
I believe we have a clear picture of what happened up to the time Clayton entered the garage.
I saw somebody in the alley by the garbage can.
Oh, it was a stray dog. I told you that, Sadie.
I know a stray dog when I see
Well,
one.
I didn't see anybody.
You looked too late.
Oh, there wasn't
There
anybody
was
in the...
too.
Ladies, please.
We're very sorry.
We apologize.
Now tell me when you saw Jack LeRae.
He ran up the driveway from the front.
After Doris and her brother were out in the backyard.
And Joe yelled, "You killed Bart."
Then she said, "He's dead. You murdered him."
It's true. He's guilty, and you're
Lorraine
right.
Trenton, Bart. That ought to be enough for any jury.
Quiet, both of you.
A few more questions, ladies.
Yes, Mr. Kegg.
In this inquest, the sounds you heard are important. Now try very hard to remember accurately.
We certainly will.
Joe Kerwin drove the truck into the garage. He closed the big doors. Then he walked out through the tool shed. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Did you hear a car engine running after Joe Kerwin entered the house?
Oh, yes, it ran quite a while.
The motor was running after he entered the house. You're sure of that?
That's why we thought it strange that Mr. Clayton had trouble starting the truck. It had been going quite well.
Thank you, ladies. We're now on the track of a killer.
Yes, Mr. Kegg?
Bart Clayton died of carbon monoxide poisoning. The garage was a lethal chamber before he walked into it. Deadly fumes had come from the truck engine. He was working on the motor when he was overcome and fell to the floor, injuring his head.
What's your evidence, Mr. Kegg?
The Trescott sisters have told us they heard the engine running and heard it stop before Clayton went into the garage.
I heard it running, too, on my way home from the grocery store.
No, Mrs. Clayton. On your way to the store, you were upset, angry when you left the house. If you had not been, you might have noticed the engine running in the closed garage. If you had noticed, you could have saved your husband's life.
Oh, no!
Coroner Willett, the only way the testimony of our innocent bystanders, Sade and Lou Trescott, can be interpreted is that Joseph Kerwin planned the death of his brother-in-law, Bart Clayton.
You better be able to prove that.
Joe, you knew Clayton was to leave the house a few minutes after you came home. You left the truck running in the garage with just enough fuel to fill the room with gas before the engine stopped.
That's a lie.
You hated your brother-in-law. You wanted to take over his construction company and knew you could if your widowed sister asked you to.
Joe wouldn't do
When
that.
you saw Jack LeRae running toward you, it was your brother who shouted, "You killed Bart."
Yes, that's right.
Until that moment, you had no idea your husband was dead. Only the murderer would have known.
Oh, Joe.
Don't try, sis. I thought you'd be better off. I thought...
Coroner Willett, I recommend that your jury find that Barton Clayton died at the hands of Joseph Kerwin.
Mr. Kegg, now that it's all over but the trial, there's one thing about this case that still bothers me.
What is it?
The Trescott sisters, one of them anyway, was sure she saw someone out in the alley just before the murder was discovered.
That's right. Sade saw it and Lou didn't.
What do you think it was, Mr. Kegg?
I didn't bring it out in court. But for the rest of my life, I will believe sincerely and without question that what Sade Trescott saw
Yes, Mr. Kegg?
was simply a stray dog.
Oh, well. Mr. Kegg.
Yes, Coroner Willett?
As coroner of Caney County for the people, I want to thank you for finding the real murderer of Barton Clayton.
I appreciate that, Coroner.
When will we see you again, Mr. Kegg, as amicus curiae?
I don't know just where I'll be, but whatever crime occurs, you may be sure I shall again offer my services as amicus curiae, whether it be in criminal court, at a coroner's inquest, or in the judge's chamber.
Good night, Mr. Kegg.
Good night.
A Life in Your Hands is created by Earl Stanley Gardner, with script by Doug Johnson, directed by John Cowan. Jonathan Kegg is played by Carlton Cadell, with musical effects by Adele Scott, conducted by Whitey Berquist. Engineering by Bill Knight. This has been a partially transcribed Bell production, and this is George Stone, extending a cordial invitation for each of you to be with us again next week, when the National Broadcasting Company will again place A Life in Your Hands. Tonight, join The Chase on NBC.
Welcome back. I really like it when Kegg goes in and he's performing his duty for a coroner's inquest. I tend to find that a little bit more believable than him doing it at trial. That it would be tough, I would think, to get opposing counsel in a criminal trial to agree to let some independent party come in the interest of justice. It's basically kind of legal fantasy in that way. It seems a lot more credible when he comes in to help a coroner's inquest, which is just investigating. All right, well, another good case with Carlton Cadell completed, and we'll be back next week with another episode of A Life in Your Hands. In the meanwhile, send your comments to box13 at greatdetectives.net. Follow us on Twitter at Radio Detectives. And be sure and let me know your thoughts on listener support campaign. If you have any suggestions for the thank you gifts, we've been doing this for a year and a half or so. You can go to support.greatdetectives.net to view our current list. But from Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.